Okay, today we're removing the front hub and bearing assembly on a 2003 Ford Expedition. There's the new hub and bearing assembly. There's where it mounts on. The spline is where it grabs the four-wheel drive, and a shaft will go all the way through it. There's your ABS line, and we're putting on a new disc brake rotor as well. So first things first, we're going to take the lug nuts off and the wheel. More to follow. Now that the wheel's off, the next step is to remove this little center cover here. There's a nut under there. Take off the two caliper bolts, then take off the four hub bolts which hold the hub and bearing assembly on. See, there's another one. See the half drive shaft, the front drive shaft goes to that bolt right there, and that bolt right there, and that releases the hub. Then this little line right here, this is your ABS line. We're going to take that off and probably just remove it and then find it later because it's under the hood. Okay, we're going to take off the caliper bolts, take off the center cover. More to follow. With a hammer and chisel, tap it lightly, and this little cover will come off. Soak it with penetrating compound and remove it. That's actually the front spline, or part of the front spline of the drive shaft. It's like a retaining nut that holds it outboard. All right, more to follow. Okay, actually end up being a 13 millimeter nut. You take it off. Then we'll start working on the brake caliper bolts, which are two 18 millimeter bolts behind the calipers here. More to follow. Next, to remove these brake caliper bolts, we need some leverage. So here's an 18 millimeter, and we attach another combination wrench to it to give us some more leverage. Right like this. More to follow. All right. Now that the caliper bolts are broke loose, I'm going to loosen them and get ready to take off the caliper. Alright, after removing the caliper bolts, take this 8 millimeter bolt off and this 10 millimeter bolt off. 10 millimeter, 8 millimeter. That holds on, the 8 millimeter bolt holds the ABS wire. And then you'll go along and disconnect it, or since we're not reusing it, just cut it. And here's the 10 millimeter bolt that's got to come off, so you can give yourself room for the brake line to drop the caliper and set it down so it doesn't break. So more to follow. Okay, now I'm going to take off the caliper. Take off the caliper, set it down right on this bucket here. Right there, out of the way. The ABS line, I just like to cut it because we got a brand new one on the new bearing. So just take that line out and then follow this line where it goes under the vehicle and in the engine bay and unplug it, and that's where you'll plug in the new sensor. So, and then you're done. Okay, next step, take out all the nuts that are holding the final part of the hub and bearing assembly in. See, got a nut right there. Nut, nut, two on each side. And 3 and 4. And they're 18 millimeters, so I'm going to remove them the same way I did the caliper, with a couple wrenches for mechanical leverage. More to follow. Okay, I've got all the bolts out. The 4 bolts are out behind the hub. Of course, the caliper. See how all those bolts are out? And you can see that the disc brake rotor isn't coming off. So the easiest way to get all this off is to get the disc brake rotor and the bearing off together, which a sledge works perfectly. Well, look at that. It's coming. I'm going to hit it a bit more times. It'll fall off. More to follow. Here we go. There we go. Hub and bearing assembly is off. There's the back of it. Inspect the inside of here. Make sure it looks good and nice and greased. Everything's in good shape. And reverse the process. First, put the new hub and bearing assembly on, then the disc brake rotor, then the disc brake caliper, then hook up your little ABS line. The ABS line is going to come in through here, this little point right here, see? That's where the ABS line is going to come out, and you're going to route it up there, then connect it under the hood. Follow it till you find a connector. Of course, follow the old one first, find out where it is, connect a new one when you're done. More to follow. Next step, push the hub and bearing assembly in, make sure that thread looks good, run the ABS line through here and up there. Make sure the 4 bolts are in good and tight. 4 bolts, nice and tight. Then take the little nut right there, put it on here, tighten it up. Put the new disc brake rotor on, then put on the brake caliper, and we're almost done. I'll get those few things done. Okay, now that the rotor's on, the easiest way to stick the caliper on is to put the lug nuts back on to hold the disc brake firmly. Put the caliper on, line up its bolts, and install it. Final thing to do, run your ABS line and connect it right to there. There's where you plug and unplug it, right above the strut tower. And then you just take off the lug nuts, put on the wheel, put on the lug nuts, install the wheel and tire, check everything for tightness, and you're done. Have a great day and mad boosting.